Hey guys, so today I wanted to do a follow-up video to my illustration agency video because since then I've gotten quite a few questions regarding my experience and a bunch of other things, so I decided to compile all of the questions that I've gotten into one video in case someone out there might have the same or similar questions. So let's get started. By the way, I'm gonna keep everyone in this video anonymous. I hope that's okay with the question askers. The first question is, can I ask, is your experience with The first question is, can I ask how your experience with that agency is going? May I ask how often do they give you new works to do? So I've been with my agent since October 2020, and so I don't think it has been that long of a time, so I haven't really expected them to radically change my illustration career or something like that. So far, they negotiated one contract for me, and that job came directly through me, and then I just asked my agent to handle that, and that was actually really nice because I am not really good with asking for my worth or really figuring out what the appropriate fee would be for a certain project. In this case, it was a licensing thing, so they just wanted to license one of my illustrations. Other than that, there have been some potential clients that came and went, but nothing really came to fruition. But like I said, I'm not really expecting my agent to radically change my career for me, and that's kind of like common illustration agency advice actually, that you shouldn't just rely on your agent to change everything for you and just make your career boom all of a sudden. You still have to do your own marketing. You still have to try and acquire your own clients. You have to think of your agent as an extra thing in your career that can help you do some marketing, that can help you reach new channels, and that can help you negotiate certain projects. Moving on, I want to have the ability to do indie publishing and collaborating on the side. Do agencies frown on that? So actually, I'm working on my own collaborative project at the moment, so I'm just gonna say your agent will probably not have a problem with that, but it really depends on the contract that you sign and the relationship that you have with your agent. And sometimes it's even a case of, the contract might say one thing, but then your agent does something else, like in a good way. Like they might not always enact all of the clauses that they put in their contract. The contract is just there to cover all the bases. But I don't see why an agent would want to, let's say, require a 30% cut from like a self-initiated project or a collaborative project. That just doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't mean this to sound like condescending. I don't see how that makes sense, right? But at the end of the day, it really comes down to communicate with your agent. You should be able to openly address questions like that with them and ask about this topic. In fact, as I mentioned, I am also currently working on a collaborative project. I don't want to reveal too much right now, but with that, I also kind of had the same question. So I asked my agent, like, hey, will you require like a 30% cut from this project as well? And then they just said, no, go for it. This is your project, and keep us updated. So the next question is, what did you do to make money while you were waiting for your illustration career to come to fruition? So first of all, and I already addressed this in the previous video, but I really dislike this idea that your illustration career absolutely has to follow this path of first you struggle and you have all of these different side jobs, and then eventually, boom, your illustration career blossoms and you can finally work full-time on illustration. Yay. Okay, I mean, some people are lucky or maybe even unlucky enough that happens for them, good for them. But we really need to stop comparing ourselves to other people's life path, because I feel like for most people, this path to like full-time illustration is really unrealistic, especially now in the middle of a pandemic. Okay? Are you even allowed to say anymore? I don't know. But anyway, I happen to believe that you can be a legitimate illustrator or artist even if your part-time or even full-time job is something completely different. I mean, at the end of the day, this is about survival. This is about you making ends meet, okay? And if that means you have to be a waitress, or if that means you have to be a tutor or whatever, then do that, and don't stress so much about proving that you can be a full-time artist. It's not worth it. Yeah, so all I can say is I hope that you can do what you need to do to make things work, and I hope that you can still find the time to do what you love on the side. I mean, we all have this struggle. We all struggle with this, and maybe there's even the opportunity for you to ask for help from someone or your family, or to rely on your family while you are trying to make it work. I mean, I'm not here to judge you. Do what works for you, and like I said, it's just about survival and doing what you can with what you have. All right, so this wasn't actually the question that was sent to me, but someone had asked me to look over their portfolio and give them some pointers for how they can improve. So I just kind of wanted to repackage this as a general question that someone might have if maybe they're wondering, okay, how can I improve my portfolio before I send it to a bunch of agents or, whatever art directors you want to send it to. So I feel that most portfolios at the very beginning, like when you come right out of university, and I had this too, is that it lacks like a conceptual core, and it's not really clear where your illustrations can be applied to, like which market and what kind of product. Yeah, because I feel like when a lot of us leave school, we think, oh, I'm open to any market, so I'm just gonna put up any kind of work about any kind of vague topic, and then as a result your illustrations kind of lack depth and just seem very vague. So what I would do is a bunch of self-initiated projects where you really think about, okay, what market do I want to work in? Say you want to work in an editorial, so perhaps you pick out some articles that you find very interesting, and then you make a bunch of illustrations for that, and then in that way you can show like, hey, art directors, I can make illustrations for articles surrounding this topic. Or maybe you can pick a current events topic and make a series of illustrations based on that. If you want to work in book, then maybe pick out a book and make a bunch of illustrations for that. In your portfolio, you really want to show that you can make illustrations based on a concrete subject, on a concrete theme, and you also want to show that your work can be applied to a concrete, potentially real thing. Another idea would be, okay, maybe you want to show that your work can be applied to packaging. So make a concept packaging design for, I don't know, a very typical example would be like tea packaging. You can find something a little bit more interesting than that. Yeah, so self-initiated portfolio projects are really, really important. And maybe if you want to go a more practical route, you can make your own product, like maybe make your own t-shirt, make your own book, make your own zine, make your own packaging, and really show that your illustration has some use. And yeah, I think that could be a really great asset for your portfolio. The next question is quite interesting. So it says, I've been working on submissions the past few months, and one agent is requesting I further develop my portfolio after I submitted additional pieces based on their initial feedback. Okay, I've never had this happen to me. In fact, I'm really curious about this because most agencies will just look at your portfolio and then decide from there whether or not to even communicate with you or not. Like, they would just judge your portfolio based on what it currently is. So I don't know, seems kind of weird. Now, the final question that I would like to answer, even though it is not necessarily one that I received, but I am sure it is a question that people have in the back of their minds. Is it even worth it to apply for an agency, given the amount of work that often goes into it? And in contrast, the very little to no reward that comes out of it. And my answer to that is a little bit boring, but you won't know unless you try. And anyway, it's not like you will be stuck with an agency forever. You could just try it out, and then once your contract runs out, you could not be part of that agency anymore. I know some people who like being part of an agency, and some people that after a while realized that they actually wanted a little bit more control over their work and their client negotiations, and then stopped and then ended their contract with their agency. So it's not an easy question to answer. This whole thing, like, oh, an illustrator being part of an agency is held up in such high regard. So I understand like the struggle with this particular thought. If you're not quite sure what to do, because it is very overwhelming. On the one hand, it takes a lot of work to apply to an agency, but then on the other hand, you still have to do your marketing for yourself regardless, and you still have to update your portfolio regardless, whether or not you're with an agency or not. So maybe I would think about dividing your time up in different seasons. So maybe for a few months you could focus on applying or sending your portfolio to different agencies and different art directors and whatnot. And then for the next few months you could focus on marketing yourself. And then for the next few months you could update your portfolio. And then who knows, maybe in between those seasons you'll end up doing work or working on different collaborations and so on. So I hope that this video was helpful and answered some of the questions that you might be having around this topic. And please leave any more questions that you might have down below in the comments, and I will try to answer them. And other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!